NHL sources give multiple Habs trade updates as there are new reports about Michael Hage and David Reinbacher's involvement in Habs' recent trade talks as their names have surfaced, but what they said about how Kent Hughes is treating them, well, it got us feeling pretty good. That, plus a little update on offer sheet probability, but not just that, Jesse, we still got our boy Ivan Demidov and some other Habs playing in the LSHL tournament, and some of the moves that Ivan was making is just once again endearing him somehow more every single day, impressing everyone across the hockey world. And we also got a little bit to talk about on the Owen Beck front. A lot of great stuff coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. And hey, before we get into the video, I'm wondering if we can hit 750 likes in this video. Last time we asked you guys, smash that like button like crazy. And I know we don't ask for it a lot, but it's just one little click and it means the world to us. So thank you for being here. Let's try and hit 750 because you know what? If you want Owen Beck to have an unbelievable season, let's try and hit 750 likes on this video. And Owen Beck, Jesse, last year, of course, 44 points in 64 games was wonderful for the Laval Rocket. He looked really good. But in the recent Habs prospect ranking, Mark Dumont and Montreal Hockey Now doing a great job with this. Link down below as always. Go check out the full write-up. They talk about Owen Beck as he ranks 5th. And this quote here, Jesse, is one that I really liked. The concerns with his production. Ignored the context in which Beck was used, not to mention his impressive versatility, because when he was tasked with playing a defensive role, his defensive stretches were amazing. When he was tasked with playing more offense, his production increased almost immediately. He's one of these guys, Jesse, that we know in training camp is going to be fighting for one of these last roster spots. He is, you could argue, one of our prospects that looks the most like a pro already has a bit of NHL experience. How are you feeling about Owen Beck being ranked 5th and the odds of him cracking this Habs roster this season? Because I think they're higher than maybe some people would give credit for.
I'm feeling great about it. Again, ranking 5th in a very tough prospects pool is a very great achievement here. I'm hoping, Josh, that he does get the inside track over Joe Veleno. I know we just brought Joe in, but we've been following Owen for a couple of years here. And you kind of get close to some of these prospects. But again, it's like whatever you ask him to do, as you mentioned, like being that coach's dream, like you want to play defense, he's going to lock that down. You want to play offense? People were concerned about that a little bit. First year in the HL, goes out, scores 15 goals, 29 assists. Shows that he can do that as well. We're not even in the playoffs where he had that production, 6 points in 12 games, but playing in the bottom pairing type of role. He's the type of guy where you put him in better circumstances and he will do even better. And that's even the reason why, Josh, there's a strong chance that he does make the team out of camp is because of his underlying analytics. It's like through the roof. It really shows how he just plays, so much attention to the details of the game. A guy that can win you faceoffs, really does everything right on the ice. Kind of reminding me of kind of like a Phil Deneau 2.0 in a lot of ways here. I have to feel like my feel though is it's such a tight roster right now, like the competition. He's not going to make it out of camp. He'll probably get that prominent role in Laval. But once he gets called up, I feel like this is a guy that could make that case. And again, there'll be a couple of them coming from Laval looking to knock Kaiden, Florian, Beck, looking to make that case for the fourth line. But because of those all-around skills, Beck is in one of the best positions out of all of them to really lock that down.
Right, and if he can make that, like, look, I want to also say that, like, a lot of times 20, 21, 22-year-olds, they don't have great face-off percentages at the NHL when they first start because it's extremely difficult. You're going up against guys who have 10 years of experience doing this stuff, right? It's not easy. As good as your technique is, some guys are also just stronger, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff like that on the draws, but if Owen Beck can be a positive face-off guy right away, that alone carves out a nice niche for him compared to a guy like Veleno, who is below 50% most of his career. Guys like Alex Newhook, Kirby, Dach, below 50%, well below for both of them. And even a guy like Jake Evans is solid right there around 50, but like there's niches he can carve out, and I think he could very well make it there. So leave us your thoughts on Owen Beck heading into this upcoming season. We'd love to hear from you. But Jesse, let's move on to another guy. Look, we got to talk about Ivan Demidov again. Like, what a sick pass, by the way. Look at this pass that he makes to Joshua Waugh. Him, Jake Evans, Joshua Waugh putting on a show there.
Jesus Murphy.
Oh, Jesus Murphy. Look at him. Look at this. Oh, Jesus, Mary and Joseph boys. This is nuts. I mean, like, again, I feel like we talk about him all the time, but you know why? Because he keeps doing stuff like this. I feel like I'm saying the same thing every single day, and I don't mind at all, because every single day we see Ivan Demidov do this kind of stuff, and he earns this nickname DemiGOD because, like, his hands are absolutely filthy. I saw Brian Wild recently saying, like, look, straight up, his hands are absolutely filthy. I don't know what else to say, right? When you watch him play, what else can you take from this other than this guy's an absolute stud who makes everyone else on the ice look inferior to him? And, you know, hey, again, just gonna go back and say that DemiGOD anyway. But regardless, Jesse, how impressed are you with this? And I don't know how much more we can get out of Demidov's offseason workouts and games, but I want to watch this every day because to me, this is as close to as good as it gets for this time of year.
And for me, what's so impressed, like, I am very impressed. We're bringing this up, Josh, because we're not just seeing the player, but like what type of skill set and how can he use that to affect the team? And a common theme while we're noticing these highlights from Demidov training in the offseason is that his playmaking is just as spectacular as his finishing. Like, as we see with like the behind the legs and all these between the legs, all these different moves right now is really just like, he can either obviously score on his own. He's been working on his one-timers, really effective, but just the way that he can set up his teammates so effortlessly, like, I feel like the guys on the Habs, they're going to be coming out of the woodwork to try and play on his, like, get promoted to that second line, because the way that he's just setting up people all over the ice right now is just like giving them absolute gimmies is really next level. And it's not hyperbole to say that Ivan Demidov is looking like one of the best players right now in the world. Like, the way that he's showing what he's doing, like that high level, we're like, okay, yeah, kind of summer league, those skills, that's gonna translate to the NHL. If you don't believe, just wait till next year. You're gonna see that even more. I don't think we're even maybe potentially hyping him enough for how good of a talent he is, how he might just completely run away with the Calder. Like, that's what I'm looking right now. I don't think too many people are gonna be able to stick with his stuff kind of going forward. He just looks on a completely other level. And of course, when you're putting all that time in the offseason, just he's already great, but then that work ethic on top is really what's taking that best, you know, that next level, that Mamba mentality, really that Ivan Demidov has. But again, that between the legs, you know, that everybody's making such a big fuss about right now on social media. Like, it's just the situational awareness. Like, that was on a tee. Like, this is a player that's moving, knowing where he's going to be in relation to pull this off in this type of way. I mean, it's just, again, next level. And I can't help but think of a guy like Gretzky, like all the best in the world. What really makes them that way is their awareness of knowing where other people are on the ice. Like, his skill level is really that good. It really is on that next level, and he's really going to start getting his praises before we know it.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, it's just, I'm excited to see who they put on a line with him, because again, like, his numbers will, you know, it will be affected by who's on the line with him, but also at the same time, whoever's on the line with him is absolutely going to profit from how good he is. And again, like, these are summer league things. It is insanely impressive to see this. Like you said, the way he sees the game is one of the most impressive aspects, let alone the hands, let alone the skating. What he is seeing and thinking is maybe the most impressive to me. But yeah, seeing what he's going to be able to do this year is crazy. I'm excited to see him maybe a full season with Laine, maybe Bolduc, maybe Kirby, Dach, see how these guys can fare with him, because it's looking to be a very exciting season. I mean, we can't get enough of these highlights, and I know you guys can't either. But I want to move on finally to something else, and some of our other top prospects, mainly Michael Hage and David Reinbacher. And in a recent article for RG.org, linked it down below. As always, again, please check it out. There's more to it than this. Same article we talked about yesterday as well. I wanted to go into some quotes that some NHL sources had on the Habs trade situation. And the first one is this. They said, they were talking about some other stuff before, but they said that's why the Canadiens didn't even consider including the names of Michael Hage or David Reinbacher in trade talks this summer. The Canadiens strongly believe in these two. Reinbacher could complete one of the better top fours in the NHL one day, and Hage's stock continues to rise. And if we just look at Reinbacher's numbers, I mean, well, I guess that's Hage, but Reinbacher and Hage, both of their numbers, like, again, the numbers are not the thing that jumps off the page here. The smoothness that we've seen from, do I still have that video? Let's see if I still have that. Yeah, there you go. The smoothness of David Reinbacher on the ice for his size. How professional he has looked. I said Beck looks like one of the most professional. Reinbacher's right up there with him. Adam Engstrom as well, like these kind of guys. But Reinbacher, when you're looking at the future of the Habs top four, Jesse, we talk about it all the time in terms of him completing that top four, him, Guhle, Hutson, and Dobson for the next number of years. Sounds like an insane top four. But also, I love the fact that it's not just the former 5th overall pick Reinbacher that's in this talk. It's the guy we traded up for, the 21st overall pick in 2024, Michael Hage. And I think the Habs are feeling the same way we felt. It's like, look, I understand purely from a business perspective, this guy makes sense if you want to trade for a 2C because he's a young up-and-coming center. But the fact that Montreal was certainly in chats for 2Cs and they were refusing to include Hage just tells us a lot about what makes this team, what makes this version of the franchise so special and interesting. And I honestly love to hear it. They value these guys really high, as they should.
And it's a little bit surprising, but again, I like that the Habs are playing the long-term game and that information that they're getting, what they're seeing, even though there's been those injuries with Reinbacher, they're liking a lot of things from his development too. There's a lot to like of seeing him actually flourish in front of our eyes and coming together and, becoming that full man that, we're expecting him to really be and grow into going forward here. He looks really like a force here going forward, but we know that development, it's really just like a cornerstone of the Habs organization going forward. If they get a prospect that they like, they really feel strongly on their ability, again, to develop that player into who they want them to be. So again, it's not always about the player, like they draft them for the skill set, but they're also, Hughes, when he's making this type of move, he's also making a bet on his ability to really be able to cultivate them into the player that they want. They've been able to do that with a couple guys so far and really take the ownership and the reins. They've seen that effect. And again, they want to do that with Hage and Reinbacher going forward. What's the reasons for that? Reinbacher, it's because they feel like they're going to have one of the best decors in the league of Hutson, Reinbacher, Guhle, and Dobson. They feel like, okay, that is just too possibly impressive to pass up on. You know what? And I get that logic in a lot of ways. Again, building your team from the net, from the defense out. It's a really strong platform to, again, really help your forwards going forward. I think it makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. Even though I like a guy like McTavish, like this is no cap whatsoever, like really like Reinbacher a lot as a player. I think he's awesome. The thing with Hage too, of why they might not have traded him, and again, we've mentioned this, like they probably said no to Verbeek. Like they've been in this talks. We know the names are coming up, and this didn't happen despite Anaheim maybe having some contract problems a little bit. McTavish is the reason they haven't traded Hage. They feel he's better than advertised. They feel that he's like good when they drafted him, but that his progression has actually been a little bit better than they expected. And I think from all signs at the summer showcase for Team Canada, Hage really being one of the best, most complete players. We're talking about some of the best prospects Canada has to offer to hold, not just from recent drafts, but from a couple coming up as well, really just speaks to his value. So again, while we might be, hasty and really want to add that 2C, we might just be happy in the long term that Kent, once again, is playing the long game in all of this.
Yeah, I like that. And again, to be point per game in your first season in the NCAA is not easy. Like, not many people can do that, and Hage did it. And it's like, okay, damn, well, that's pretty impressive on a Michigan team that's only going to get better next year, where he's going to get more opportunity to play more hockey, play better hockey. And then in the summer, like you said, he was probably Team Canada's MVP for this summer showcase. Like, he was unbelievable. And yeah, he also bleeds red, white, and blue. Like, he is a Habs fan through and through, and it's just, he's meant to be a Habs. So I really love that quote from Kent Hughes. And then let us know your thoughts on that down below. Hage and Reinbacher and why they're not even included in trade talks, which is pretty crazy because the teams have been asking for them. The Montreal Canadiens just didn't want to include them. There's just one final thing I wanted to touch on at the end of this here, though, Jesse. That an NHL executive from the same article also said when it comes to offer sheets, I wouldn't hold my breath. If contending teams are hesitant to give away their 2026 first, you can bet that the Canadiens will want to hold on to it until they have a clearer idea of where they'll land in next season's standings. And this to me points to the fact that, with Montreal having a decent amount of picks, again, 3 extra draft picks this upcoming draft. We don't have that plethora of firsts anymore. We moved up in this past draft to get the players we wanted. Now we're moving into the contention window, but we're not missing any. That's another big thing. Most teams can't say that. So in terms of an offer sheet, I didn't think it was likely anyway. You don't want to burn those bridges, and they're really, really risky. But again, I think it's interesting to hear that, like, we might want to see how this team does before we consider moving a pick, but it's not completely impossible, Jesse, and I'm honestly completely on board with that. If Montreal looks like, okay, we have actually fully taken that turn, we're ready to start competing, that's when the picks come off the shelf. And again, just one of these things, like you said, play the long game, Kent Hughes, because there's no point in rushing, and I think they're doing it in the exact right way.
And if we can use the draft picks, that would be the ideal situation because it's still what Kent Hughes really has the most in spades. It's just so does a lot of the league as well right now, which is why teams have been looking at a guy like Hage or like Reinbacher there. That being said, like the roster players they have along with some of those prospects, I feel is enough ammunition to really get something going with maybe some other prospects that we'd be willing to part with. That's where some of those guys, again, like a Joshua Kaiden come in handy because even though we like them, we get to hold on to the prospects we like while still giving something of value immediate to another team in a trade. course, that would be the ideal situation if Kent Hughes can really leverage those picks, because we know he doesn't want to create any holes on this roster going forward. That obviously would be ideal, and we know that Kent Hughes, he's going to figure a way to really work this out.
Oh, I can't wait. I mean, again, all these signs are pointing to something pretty interesting happening, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about not wanting to include Hage and Reinbacher? What are your thoughts on waiting to see how the team's doing before maybe moving one of these picks for a good player? We'd love to hear from you, because that'll do it for this episode. And if you enjoyed, leave a like down below. Try and hit that 750 likes. I know a lot of you are still sticking around even to this point, and thank you very much for tuning in every single day. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.